Oh, Gideon, this whole misogynistic, brooding bad boy thing is canceled. Yes, that was my favorite line of the night from Charmed. Season 1, episode 14, Touched by a Demon. We have so much going on with all three sisters, their love lives, their witch lives, and we're about to break it all down right now, baby. Stay tuned.
You're tuned in to Afterbuzz TV, the ESPN of TV talk. Now, let the buzz begin.
What's up, you guys? I'm back with Kamisha Lauture. Thanks for joining us, you guys. Another packed episode, probably my favorite. I'm Steph Sabraw. We have a lot to break down tonight. Macy's trying to cope with her new demon situation. She does this by watching a lot of her nostalgic favorite TV shows, as I think we all do when we're going through some stuff. And things take a weird loophole, new dimension turn. Mel and Jada go on this whole adventure, which I'll get into. I wish there was more development, if not a whole standalone episode on that. And Maggie and Parker are heading into some relationship, sex topics, issues, breakthroughs. So we're gonna be breaking that all down with the monster of the week, and then have our special segment. Kamisha's gonna break down the coinciding OG Charmed episode from season 1, episode 14. And then we'll get into some news and gossip and wrap it up with predictions. And we see you guys all in the chat. Thanks for tuning in with us. Definitely going to be enlisting your guys' help like last week, because you are our other panel members. But what was your overall thoughts, Kamisha?
Yeah, I feel like the show is, I'm starting to really feel connected to the characters. I really am enjoying the sisters' relationship. I love the writing of this show, and how we get to see their dynamic and their evolvement as of sisterhood over each episode. So I really do love that. And the demons in this episode were really scary, so super believable. They're really doing a great job, really with everything in of the show as it continues, as we get more episodes and continues to evolve.
Yeah,
so I'm loving it.
I love that. Everything you said, I totally agree with. I feel like this episode had a lot of like OG Charmed tone, more than the other episodes, which is great, because lately I've been thinking whereas in the 90s and the early 2000s I loved Monster of the Week shows, and now with how complex television's getting, and shows like Sabrina, even though it's Monster of the Week, it's way like they're spending so much money. The storyline is really deep and interconnected with the entire season as a whole. So in order to do it now, it's hard, and I think that they're finding their way of doing it. And this was a great example of them doing a Monster of the Week in a way that made sense. It like heightened the plot line of them as individuals, but also as a story. And then it was also just like a fun episode.
It was
really fun episode. And I do have to say that this was actually directed by Stuart Gillard, who directed some of the original Charmed.
Amazing.
So it must have had to do with that.
Oh, yeah.
We definitely picked up what you were putting down, Stuart. So
Definitely.
Thank you. Let's hit the main part, which is Macy, and then how that led to Monster of the Week, and then we'll get into the other storylines.
Sounds good.
So Macy has this moment where she's talking about how she was levitated the bed during sex. And we talked about this last week with you guys in the chat, that being a virgin and being a witch and then not being a virgin anymore, mythologically speaking, always plays a big role. So we were all curious if that was going to happen. And I think it is, because then her pain receptors are dulling, and Harry tells us that this is her turning into a demon, basically. Did you think that this was going to happen? Because I think it was Maggie who was like, why now at 29?
Yeah. I did not think that was going to happen. And I think that makes sense. With the whole, her losing her virginity, and I don't know, maybe it's something about giving that part of her to someone else. I'm not sure, not technically like that, but yeah, I didn't expect I didn't expect that. That was a surprise.
Yeah.
I was very confused why she was not feeling anything. It was
I know. I was like,
painful to
whoa,
watch.
Yeah.
It's like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Really painful and like really good makeup because it looked like fourth degree burn.
Yes.
And that leads into the main part where she's sitting and watching throwback TV, and it is a show about Angel brothers who, to me, it was a complete play on Vampire Diaries and Supernatural with the two brothers, one like this brooding like a-hole and the other's like this nice guy. But what did you think about them when they first came on the episode?
When they first came on the episode she was watching?
Yeah,
or when they
yeah.
came...
Like, did you think that it was gonna lead to how?
No, I was very confused as to why. Truthfully speaking, why we were spending so much time seeing that moment of her just watching that show. I was like, okay, this is an interesting choice of the creators, and then it made sense that they were going to come out the screen.
Yeah. And then so she spills the tincture, which said, we wrote it down. Escape. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it was from Marisol, so obviously it was loaded. She should have known that. Yeah. And that opened up the portal, and I was like, oh, that's cool, because now we're messing with different realities. We're messing with different rules to be played in each storyline, and it was played Gideon and Levi, played by Jimmy Tatro, who started as a Vine, or is that what it's called?
Vine?
Yeah. On Vine,
Okay.
I'm pretty sure it turned, like, he went to like U of A, and now he has like a Netflix series.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, so it was funny
Awesome.
seeing him on the screen. And
He
Scott
looked very
Porter.
familiar.
He is, like, you've had to see him in some videos on YouTube or something. He does a lot of stuff, but it's funny seeing him acting now.
Wow.
And this was interesting because at first I was like, all right, Macy, you're fangirling as you were RBG for Halloween and you're not realizing how problematic their language is. But then I realized what they were doing was a bigger take on these 90s shows that had these really problematic, misogynistic male characters that had like no dimension at all. And they were either like overly emotional or just misogynist, which we saw in the two brothers. So I thought this was another time where the show did a good job of doing what they originally said they were going to do, was hit on social topics and then put it into the show. And this seemed more seamless than usual, where it wasn't in your face, but you're like, oh, I see what you're doing. Like when you watch throwback television, do you think now like how problematic they are? Like woke, quote, what Macy was saying wasn't a thing then?
I think everything that you mentioned just totally clicks, and that's what it was back then. And I think now with the whole movement around women coming together to demand that we need to be seen as other characters than just like the love interest or the girly girl, because even in that show, we see the character Angelica, and she's just the one that they're fighting over. So I do love how they did bring that in, and they did that so beautifully.
And I love that they have Harry in like a central part of this episode, because he is like the more dynamic 2019 man that we would hope to see more men kind of like develop these personality traits where they're okay with being emotional. Yeah. They're okay with like acknowledging that women are equal, if not better in some situations. They're okay with acknowledging women's successes. In this case, Macy, like being like, she's a freaking geneticist doctor, like total like superwoman. So I love that. And I feel like I didn't know where they were going to go with it, but I loved how there was a lot of breaking of the fourth wall, and that the two brothers actually, or the one brother, Jimmy, played by Jimmy Tatro, sent them back into their dimension. Yeah. That was like creepy. What did you think about the CGI with the characters? Because it was very 90s. Like those were like the OG charm type looks of the demons and the vampires. But it was still modernized in a way that I loved.
Yeah, I think they did it really well. As I said at the beginning, I thought the demons were all really scary looking, and I thought their makeup was great. It was all very believable. But I agree. It definitely took on that play of the old charm of how those demons looked, which we were talking about the other time, where we felt like they did a really good job themselves
for that time.
For that time.
Every time I look at the pictures that you pull, I'm like, wow. For that time, they looked so creepy.
Yeah.
I mean, they still are creepy.
Yeah.
And then and then also in this episode, Parker showed a really dimensional male character as well, but we'll talk about that more with Maggie and Parker. But I like the turn that they took, like I was saying, with the portal, because I think that they took not the easy route of the episode and instead took a more complicated route, which I really appreciated. And that scene where it leads to the end of the episode, where it's like the make it break it scene, and it's Harry, Macy, the devil, right? And this girl who's being sacrificed.
Yeah.
And this was like a metaphor to me. I took it on Macy being in control of her destiny. And Harry actually steps aside and says, "What's the plan?" And she was able to, like, because she knew the show, but also knew what's best for her, which is a great commentary on women knowing what's best for their bodies. Don't tell me anything, any other thing. We know what's best for our body. Don't ever try to make decisions for us. In this case, this was another way that they put this metaphor into a seamless way.
Definitely. And I just love how hyped she was just to know the show and just be able to take charge of that moment and be like, oh, well, I know how to do this. Like, these are the lines. I know this. So I love that.
Yeah, and just defeat the devil on her own terms, which
Yeah.
is actually really smart. And it reminded me of when I was younger and I was watching shows. I'm like, can you just do this? You would have been able to kill them, but like the characters never know.
They got to figure it out.
But it was really fun. And throughout this episode, when this Maggie and Mel were able to help, I love the lines talking about, oh, these shows use so much exposition, which is obviously them laughing at themselves in this show as well. And I actually have a tweet from one of the writers that I wanted to read about the episode, this storyline in particular. When Joey Flacco pitched, this was from George Northey, one of the writers on the show, and he said, when Joey Falco pitched his idea for tonight's episode, we were all like, that's amazing. We'll never be allowed to do it. But then we were, and we did. Watch tonight and take a trip back to the 90s for our most fun, most hilarious, most meta episode yet.
Wow.
Which I couldn't agree more. That's so what it felt like to me.
Oh, that's awesome. I wonder why they questioned why they wouldn't be able to
I think
do it.
because of rights, like copyright rights. Like, I think they did it in a way that still wasn't fully pulling from stories, but it was very 90s.
Inspired,
Yeah. Maybe that's what I took about it.
Okay.
Took on it.
I don't. Maybe when they first pitched it, maybe there was some, like you said, some copyright issues or something, and they had to flip it around and find a way.
Yeah. But I do like this one. Seemed more, it was deeper storyline than just your average monster of the week, because the two brothers were technically like at the helm of that role, but they weren't the monsters of the week. They brought monsters from their reality, but they too were equally important, but different characters.
Yeah, and then also, for a moment, I questioned whether Gideon was a good guy. After pushing them into the portal, I was confused because we were seeing the demon, but then I was thinking, okay, well, Gideon in some form is a type of bad guy. But, I mean, he let his emotions sort of take control of him, and that was, pushing them was the result of that.
Totally.
So not so bad guy, but emotional.
Yeah. But okay, next up we have Maggie, but before then, Kamisha has something to say to all you lovely witches and warlocks.
Of course. Hey guys, before we move on to our next topic, we just wanted to say thank you so much for making us the ESPN of TV talk. But for us to continue to grow, we do need your help. If you're on YouTube right now, hit that subscribe button and give us a thumbs up. And if you're on iTunes, please give us a 5-star rating. But no matter where you are, please be sure to leave a comment so that you can join in on the conversation. Being a part of Afterbuzz TV has meant so much to us. I truly enjoy coming here every Sunday and being able to talk to you guys about Charmed and hearing your thoughts. So be sure to keep coming in, and don't forget to tell your friends.
Yes, we do love you guys. I will definitely have some shout outs towards the end of our review.
Yeah.
But let's talk about Maggie's storyline. At first I thought she had a magical vagina, but then it led into, like, we both were like, oh.
Yeah, I was like, oh, okay. Literally.
I thought that was
Magic.
so, like, a great way to be funny, but not trying to be funny.
But also empowering.
Yeah.
I thought it was just their take of also just like how empowered she was in that situation.
Yeah, which ended up not really being it, but kind of it. So let's talk about that. So Maggie's reason for her inability to go through with sex with Parker actually was this mirrored through Parker's storyline too. They were both scared. I really liked this because oftentimes we don't see men like expressing their fear on sex. Like they just say, and this is society's fault too, I believe, that we make men feel like they have to be this like hypersexualized, like tough guy. And it's like, in reality, like as we progress and evolve as humans in a society, that is so, me personally, not what I'm looking for. And I love when we're having this dialogue continue where men can talk about their emotions, they can talk about their fears, and they don't have to be like these sex crazy animals.
Oh
like we're
gosh.
all just freaking humans.
Yes, I wish we could talk a little bit more about this, but I saw a short clip from Jamil.
Oh, I love.
Oh my god, yeah, and she was talking about sex, and it made she said teach your boys about sex, and I actually I was being a little creep. I was on Darius's Instagram today, and I came upon that video. Teach your boys about sex, because if they don't, then they're gonna go to other sort of like media to learn about it, like Pornhub. Yeah. And that way is not the best way to learn. And I just thought it was so powerful, and I just loved how she talked about that. So to your point, yeah.
No, I love that. I love her. She brings up a lot of taboo topics, but it's so true. And shows like this are important, and they're equally important in the conversation, because the more that we show men in this dimensional light, the more that it's a safer space for men to feel like they can be that.
Oh, of course.
So I really appreciated that. And I'm starting to really like them more as a couple. I trust Parker more, but we lead into the end of the scene where they try it again after communicating with each other, which open communication is absolutely key in any relationship, especially when you're about to like progress sexually in your relationship. But yeah, I'm really curious to see where they end up, because they're like in bed sheets in, I don't know, it looked like a really not good place to be.
It looked like the bottom of it looked like hell.
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah, but I love that scene. It was beautiful.
Yeah.
And I loved how we just got to see how it was just like really intimate, and it seemed like he was caring, she was caring for him. It was nice.
Agreed. Okay, let's talk about Mel and Jada. So Mel is like progressing things with Jada, and the last thing we saw last episode was they were hit. Jada was hit, and we find out that it was definitely hit by witch hunters, because the type of like solution or the weapon used on it was meant so that she couldn't heal from it. And then she also finds out that Mel finds out that Nico is getting married. So this is like a really emotion-packed scene. Like, it wasn't only action-packed. This is why I think, let me tell me what you guys think in the chat. I think this whole scene of them getting after these witch hunters and dealing with the Nico, Mel, and Jada love triangle could have been, and then bringing in the Sarkana and the Elders, which is a storyline that I'm still waiting to know more about, seemed like another episode entirely, but maybe it was just like a setup for a greater plot line, maybe next episode.
Yeah, I could see that. Because them sort of knocking down the witch hunters. I mean, where there must be more of them coming. I would think.
Yeah. And I saw some of you guys in the chat being like, it's kind of weird how much Jada knows about Mel's powers. And it's true, because we were able to see Mel do these things that she didn't know was possible with her powers. So I am like, does Jada know because she's tested the limits and been able to learn a different curriculum than what the charmed ones are able to learn through Harry and the elders? Or has she really studied up on Mel and trying to really know everything about her? Do you trust Jada, or did this make you... To me, I still feel trust towards Jada.
Nothing has really pointed me in a direction to not trust her, but I wouldn't be surprised if out of nowhere she isn't who we thought she was, and Macy was right to feel to be skeptical about her.
Yeah. It's just interesting because the elders being like potential villains is a plotline that's been teased since the pilot, basically. And then obviously Mel's association with the Sarkana has intensified continuously, and I don't know who's bad, who's good, but I really want to find out more. What was your opinion on Nico being married?
That was very emotional for me. I really, Mel, the way she portrayed that scene, like her acting in that scene was just it was incredible. Like, I felt hurt to hear that Nico,
and then also not
engaged.
wanting to show too much emotion in front of Jada.
It sucks. Like, I know she had to sacrifice her love for Nico, or not her love, but that whole situation of her erasing her memory, and to see that your love is off to someone else. It's hard.
Yeah, it is really hard, but I do personally stan Jada and Mel more. I don't know. I just think that because it's hard, because unless we have a Cole and Prue situation, and we know that didn't work out once she found out exactly what Prue was, once he found out what Prue was, and then she had to wipe that part of his brain again. So I feel like Nico would be the same thing. It's hard when you're an investigator and you've built your whole life on thinking certain things are good and certain things are bad, and there's no gray area, and of course not the supernatural. So I don't know if there was any real future, but it is an interesting question that she asked Harry at the end, like, did the elders really know that I could have done that? Like, could have not wiped it.
Which I'm pretty sure they knew. But I am
sorry, Andy and Prue. Thank you, Ivan Soto. Andy and Prue. My bad. Cole and Prue. Andy and Prue.
Yes.
R.I.P. Andy. He'll never get over that either.
Oh yeah, I know. What was I saying about Mel? I feel for her. I am not sure if one day, if Jada is evil, then Mel will be her again. So I'm just bracing myself for that. So hopefully she's just all innocent.
Yeah. But it leads me to ask questions like, this whole scene did, like, who are the witch hunters? Were they connected to Jada's parents? What were the rings that they were wearing? Why were they important? Obviously we know that they shielded powers. How did they get those? Who manifested that? We kind of got answers to these, but not really. And I feel like I said earlier, the whole like shield over the Sarkana, the witch hunters, Jada, and the elders, I want more answers, and I feel like it would deepen the plot line. I feel like it's only hurting them not to delve into deeper things like that.
I want to see more of them, more of the Sarkanas, for sure.
Any other thoughts about the episode?
Any other thoughts? I think just to reiterate, I'm enjoying it more. I feel it just feels more cohesive in a sense, and I really do feel like they're really finding their way of bringing all the characters together, and the characters are really finding like their own, the actors are really finding their characters.
Yeah. I see you guys in the chat. Boss at Home, Ivan Soto, you both think Nico is boring. Or Boss at Home, I feel like Nico's treated too much like background character. Oh yeah, so she's boring now. Yeah, I agree. They are. I mean, she hasn't been very fun, and it's nothing about the acting. I think just the writing and her character. They're trying to phase her out a little bit. Maybe, I don't know, but I still is an interesting twist. So let's get into our special segment. Take it away, Kamisha.
Yeah. Happy birthday to Sedarius Blaine, the actor that plays Galvin. It is his birthday today, and he turned 32. So from the Charmed After Show family, we wish you a happy birthday. Hopefully you're spending it with loved ones and celebrating it, and having all the fun that you deserve.
Yes, I love it. Well, I definitely hope that they are.
Yeah.
I hope that he is. March baby. Pisces, yes. I would love to get him on the show. We should
I was thinking that. He seems really cool.
Yeah. Okay, can we get into your OG Charm special segment?
All right. So this episode, today's episode goes or not hand in hand, but okay. So we're going back to February 17, 1999. Secrets in the Guise is the Charmed episode. This one was written by Constance M. Burge, Cheryl J. Anderson, and Brad Kern. In this episode, so when the young witch Max is kidnapped by two thieves to use his power to heist a bank, Prue is called on through a Ouija board to help him. Meanwhile, Piper is having trouble with the new chef of Quake, and the handyman Leo returns to help the Halliwell sisters fix the chandelier. At one point, Phoebe sees him floating in the air and questions him, and that is when she finds out, or he tells her that he's actually a whitelighter, but that she has to keep it a secret and not tell Piper at all, which is hard for her because clearly Phoebe can't keep secrets. Unfortunately, at the end of the episode, Piper and Leo have to break ties. This episode sort of coincides with the episode today of the Charmed reboot because it really focuses on the relationship aspect of it, and we know that this episode was really relationship heavy. But obviously, at the end, Leo had to cut ties with Piper, but obviously he's going to come back, which is nice. So that is where sort of the similarity is.
Yeah, no, it's true. It is interesting to see how much in this reboot they're focusing on their love lives.
Yeah.
Clearly it's playing a greater role into their story, so I like it, but it is. Yeah. I love that. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Boss at Home had a really good point. He said, can the show bring back Apocalypse plotline? I feel like they forgot about it. That is so true. Like, that's how we started the season, knowing that, like, there was an all impending doom on the rise, but we've completely disregarded that.
So true.
So I feel like that's something, if you throw something out like that, it has to be at least in every other episode, like a little touch of it coming. So that's weird. Ivan Soto has said, you realize Parker is like Cole. Yes, I do. There is a definite similarity. Before we get into predictions, let me do my shout outs now. For those in the live chat, Billie Jean Girl 24, Mark Ryans, Jackie Gonzalez, Gratian Ryan, Erica, Billie Jean, I said you, Lola Mund, Ivan Soto, Drew Bissonette, Dwayne Armstrong. All you guys are the best. Sorry if I missed you. Thank you guys so much for tuning in and becoming a part of this chat. It makes the conversation that much better to have an entire Charmed community.
Yeah.
I want to give a special shout out to Jesse McCain. What's up? You tweeted me and I saw your comment on last episode. Yes, we read the comments. You are a real one. Thank you for tuning in. It means a lot to us. With that being said, let us get into our predictions. And you guys write your predictions in the chat right now before we get into it. Kamisha, what are you thinking for next episode?
Oh, for next episode, I don't have any crazy predictions. Just more like what I want to see more of. I'm just very curious to know how Parker and Maggie get out of that whatever sort of dungeon or that
Wherever
they're in.
they
Yeah,
are.
wherever they are, because we do see that she's trade places, or she's in Mel's body and Mel's in her body. So I wonder how she got out of that dungeon.
Yeah.
And how that is all gonna happen.
Yeah, so true. I'm with that. And also, we end the episode with Macy being like, I have to confide in the elders because I know that we don't really know if we trust them, but I need answers and it's my choice to do this. So, with that, though, it is true that there has to be a showdown between the Sarkana and the elders because it's causing tension between the sisters. It's causing tensions in the entire Charm plot line.
Yeah.
And we need to know what's going to happen. And I think that will be like the peak of the season. And hopefully the impending doom that was kind of foreshadowed from the beginning. So I want to know what happens in that storyline as well. But I definitely want more Mel next episode because I feel like it was just weird she had big moments, but they were sped upon too quickly.
Yeah. And I wonder if at any point Mel will find an opportunity to bring back Nico's memories, if that's an option, because of this whole wedding happening. Like, maybe we're going to see the wedding. Maybe Mel is going to object in some way. I could see that happening.
Yeah. Mark Ryan's in the chat says, I predict the elders will do something to Jada and it will set Mel off. And let's see what else. Gratian Ryan, having sex with Maggie brings Parker closer to being the source. Drew Bizanet, I feel like Mel and Macy have a very Prude and Phoebe relationship from the first 2 seasons. I agree.
Mel and who?
Mel and Macy.
Mel and Macy.
But it's so true because they're the ones because Maggie gets along with both of them, but Mel and Macy have not really sat down and been like, we're stuck with each other.
True.
We gotta love each other.
Yeah.
So we'll see. I'm excited to break down next episode with you guys. Until then, where can we find you, Kamisha?
Yes, you guys can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Kamisha Lauture.
Thank you guys for tuning in. Make sure to hit that like button right now. You can find me on Instagram and Twitter at Steph Sabraw. We will see you guys next week to break down episode 15.
Our founder, Kevin Undergaro, and me, Maria Menounos, would like to thank you for tuning in to Afterbuzz TV. Remember, we're not just the first, we're the biggest in the world, and we're the only destination for all your favorite TV shows. Whatever you crave, we've got it. So go to AfterbuzzTV.com and check out our lineup. Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.